Hey guys, what's up? I thought I'd do a little video today because I've been building pedal clones as a hobby now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And I just thought it would be cool to go through some of my favorites that I've built so far. So this is just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is going to be 10 of my favorite drive pedals that I've built so far. Or 10 of my favorite drive circuits, if you will. And they're not going to be in any particular order. I'm not going to do any sounds this video, but I will link in the description of all the videos, or all the pedals that I'm going to show. There'll be links in the description to videos that I've done previously if you want to hear what they sound like. So with that said, let's get started. And once again, no particular order. So first up, we've got the Lotus Pedals Snow Job. This was billed as an underdrive, which is kind of a dumb term, but you know, in the pedal world there's a lot of marketing bullshit. Actually, in the guitar world in general there's a lot of marketing bullshit, but this is a really cool circuit. It's a low parts count. You can get a fair amount of volume out of it, and it's a pretty low gain overdrive. And it has a little clipping switch, and you can play around with the clipping. So if you prefer LED clipping, you can go with that. Symmetrical, asymmetrical, that kind of thing. You can sort of experiment to your heart's content. I think the original calls for symmetrical diode clipping, and in this particular one I used asymmetrical diode clipping. And another theme you're probably going to notice throughout, well, maybe there's a few of these pedals anyway, but what tends to happen for pedals that I really like and that I want to keep, I tend to put Calvin and Hobbes artwork on them. So you might notice that a few of these have that. So anyway, Lotus Pedals Snow Job. So number 2, and probably the oldest pedal that I have in this list, i.e. one of the first pedals that I built, is the Defect Fuzz Factory clone. I was always interested in the Fuzz Factory for some reason, even before I started building. And even when I started, I didn't realize how difficult to find some of these parts were, but I managed to get my hands on some and built myself a clone. And essentially it's just a fuzz face with all the mods. So and I've since come across another circuit that sort of achieves similar sounds, but with way easier to find parts, and that'd be the Fuzz Hugger Absinthe. I haven't boxed that one up yet, but I have built it and tested it, and it sounds very similar to this, so maybe in a future video that one might replace this as one of my favorites. But this is definitely fun to play with for me because I like all the noise that you can get out of it. And I did a video a long time ago where I was sort of noodling over a loop, and this kicked in at the end and acted somewhat like a theremin. It was really fun for me anyway. I don't know if that's an error in how I made the pedal, or if that is sort of that the pedal can actually do that. I don't know if the original can do that, but this one can. But yeah, fun for noise junkies anyway. Alright, number 3 is the Sun Model T preamp pedal that I made. This was really cool, and the reason that I made it is because of the guys on the artwork, Sun. I had heard that they used all kinds of vintage Sun amps for their sound, but in particular Model T's So when I saw that this came up as a circuit to try, I jumped on it. It's not too complicated of a build, but the offboard wiring's kind of a bitch. But it tends to be in a lot of preamp pedals, or really any pedal that has more than 4 knobs. But I'm glad that I did this, because this is definitely one of my favorites. And depending on what you use in conjunction with it, you can get a wide variety of sounds out of it. So for instance, if you want to try to get something that sounds more like Sun or early Earth, you put a rat pedal in front of this. Or Sun also tends to use big muffs in front of this. That works as well. Or even a treble booster will get you close to something like early Black Sabbath. So you can get all kinds of territory out of this pedal, and it sort of checks a lot of boxes on bands that I really like anyway. So yeah, I'm really happy with this one. Alright, number 4 is the Mad Professor Sweet Honey Overdrive. Not really a whole lot to say about this one, but it's fairly simple. As you can see, 3 knobs, and it's a low gain overdrive, but it has a different sort of texture to something like the Snow Job. It's darker and a bit smoother, I think. So it's really, I mean, for a while there I was really getting into lower gain stuff, but the Snow Job and this one in particular stood out to me, and I can't really describe what else makes it my favorite, but give it a shot. The Mad Professor Sweet Honey. Alright, number 5, Dr. Boogie. This pedal was one of the first really high gain pedals that I built, and was easily one of my favorites right from the start. It's supposed to be a Mesa Boogie emulator, I believe. I'm not exactly sure which iteration of Mesa Boogie, like if it's supposed to be Rectifier or any of that other stuff. But it's definitely high gain, and it does it really well. I was finding that this really, it's sort of, because it's a Mesa emulator, I find myself playing a lot of Devin Townsend on it. So in a lot of the later videos, anytime you hear me playing Devin Townsend riffs, if I'm not demonstrating a pedal, it's probably this one. Or really anything high gain. This is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, high gain overdrive pedal. So the Dr. Boogie. Number 6, Love Pedal Cot 50. I'm not exactly sure what drew me to this. I think I went through a phase where I was just doing a lot of Love Pedal circuits, because they're, for the most part, they're pretty simple. And from what I understand, a lot of Love Pedal pedals are just various iterations of an electro distortion circuit, which is fair enough. I mean, you can modify that circuit and get a lot of different sounds out of it, but this one in particular I really liked because A, it's very simple, and B, it's very customizable. As I said, I'm pretty sure Love Pedal's thing, for a while anyway, is that a lot of the gain pedals that Love Pedal does are based off of the electro distortion. So having said that, this is not a stock Cot 50. This is, I guess you could say, heavily modified, but there's really not a whole lot to modify. what I did was I altered the input cap on this so that it would take some of the highs off, because the stock version is pretty harsh, I find. So I gave it a little bit of a bassier input cap. I changed the clipping diodes because the original calls for something, I forget what. I replaced them with something else, I also forget what, but the reason I replaced them, it's still a symmetrical diode configuration, but I changed the diodes until I found ones that gave me nice sort of smooth clipping but without dropping the volume too much. And the other thing I did was I changed the transistor. So I forget what the transistor calls for, but in this one it's a BC108 because I just like the sound of that the best. So this is sort of personalized COT 50 anyway, and that's what I like about it. I built one before that looked almost exactly like this, and I sold it, and I liked it so much that I built myself another one. Alright, number 7 is the Defect. This is supposed to be a diesel emulator, probably a diesel VH4, don't quote me on that. But yeah, another very high gain pedal. And like I said, for a long time that Dr. Boogie was my go-to for high gain until I built this. This gives it a serious run for its money. It sounds very different, but the high gain is just as brutal. So the main difference, I think, between this and the Dr. Boogie is that this has a lot more bass presence. And it also has, I think the Dr. Boogie has a presence control, as well as bass middle treble EQ. This one has bass middle treble, it has a presence, but it also has a resonance control. So I called it deep on this. But yeah, that really is what makes this pedal, I think. You can rumble the floor with this, and it's really fun to play with. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, but the high gains in this are really fun. Alright, number 8, you probably noticed recently, I put up this. The Laney Supergroup 100 Mark I preamp pedal. Not a whole lot more I can say about this really, except that apparently it's identical to the Sun Model T preamp and a bunch of other preamps from that era. Just has different values for some of the parts. So, and it's amazing how different they sound, even though they're basically identical circuits. They're just a few value changes really. But this one it has more gain in it, and it has sort of a smoother gain to it. And yeah, I really love it. And again, it's one of those pedals where you can put things in front of it to sort of emulate your favorite bands, or basically the way this is, it's pretty much Black Sabbath in a box. So if you like Black Sabbath, check this out. Laney Supergroup 100 Mark I preamp. Number 9 is the Proko Rat Clone. This one is really fun. I don't remember how difficult it is as a circuit, but it can't be too bad if I fit it into a box this small. But yeah, I really like this because it's sort of a unique overdrive. There's a lot of overdrive or distortion pedals that sort of sound similar, maybe with just minor differences. This sounds unique. There's not really anything around that sounds exactly like this. And there's some debate about, you know, whether the op amp in it makes it sound the way it does. I don't think that's true. I know the original op amps are obsolete and really difficult to find and really expensive. I used a cheaper version of the op amp for this pedal, and well, not even a cheaper version, just I used an OP07 chip, which is what Proko started using for the Rat 2, I believe. Anyway, I used that in this and used it for a while, thought it sounded really good, and I found a couple of equivalents to the original op amp, and I bought a couple. They were like $5 each versus, maybe 15 to 25 cents for the OP07. But, everybody speaks so highly of those original op amps that I just had to try them. So I got a couple in, and I swapped the op amps, and I believe I did a video, or a quick video anyway, it's not really that scientific, but I did a quick video of sort of an A-B comparison between the workaround op amp and the OP07 that I use in this, and I couldn't hear a difference. So take that as you will. Like I said, I think there's a lot of bullshit that goes on in the guitar community and the pedal community, but I'm very happy with this, and I'm pretty confident in saying if you try to build this from the link in the description and you want to use an OP07 as the op amp, I wouldn't be afraid of using it. And I think it'll sound exactly like you want it to sound. Okay, and last but not least is the Fuzz Hugger Groundswell Overdrive that I did. This one I really like because, again, it's sort of customizable. You can, it's not a very complicated circuit. It's a little more than some of these other ones, but not too bad. But again, you can mess with it and make it your own. So the original, I don't believe, has a clipping switch, but there's instructions on how to add your own clipping switch. You can change out transistors, things like that, and sort of make it your own. And I really like that about it. Even stock, it sounds good. You can get sort of a low to medium gain out of it, and if you really mess with it, the controls a bit, you can sort of get a broken fuzz sort of sound out of it. So it's pretty versatile. And like I said, you can add a clipping switch, add your favorite kind of clipping on both sides, so you can really give this pedal a lot of options. And yeah, I really like that, and it makes it fun to build when you can adjust things and just make it your own without needing sort of an engineering degree to mess with stuff. So anyway, guys, that's my top 10 favorite gain pedals, at least for the moment. I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, links are in the description for all of these if you want to hear what they sound like, or if you want to try building them. There will be links in the original videos to layouts and things if you want to try building them. So that's it for me this time. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time, guys. Take it easy.